Hi, I'm Elaine Meyer, editor of Daily Word magazine. Always remember that Christmas is more than a date on the calendar. It's a feeling we carry in our hearts all year long. On behalf of the editorial team, blessings to you and yours this holiday season.
Welcome to the Yoga Hour, offering insights and practices for spiritually consciously living today. Here's your host, Yogacharya, Ellen Grace O'Brian.
Welcome to the Yoga Hour, where we talk about yoga in all its depth and breadth as a path to spiritually conscious, fulfilled living today. I'm Dr. Laurel Trujillo, co-host and producer of the show. Today, our topic is Imagine Enlightenment. I'm so delighted to once again join the Yoga Hour's founder and host, Yogacharya Ellen Grace O'Brian, who is an internationally acclaimed spiritual teacher, author, poet, and the founder and spiritual director of the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment, a Kriya Yoga meditation center with headquarters in San Jose, California. We are focusing our current conversations on her new book, The Jewel of Abundance, Finding Prosperity Through the Ancient Wisdom of Yoga, which is now available on Amazon.com or via her website, ellengraceobrian.com, and O'Brien is with an A, BRIAN.com. You can find out more about her writings and teachings at that website, ellengraceobrian.com, and teachings at the CSE website, csecenter.org. Good morning and welcome, Yogacharya O'Brian, or Umaji. I'm so delighted to join you today here on the show.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. It's great to be back again and to be doing this series with you, looking at prosperous living in all its ramifications.
Indeed. And I did want to mention that you have several retreats in the upcoming months, beginning with a New Year's retreat in January at CSE in San Jose. In April, you'll be at the 1440 in Scotts Valley. The Omega Institute, you'll have a retreat in May, and Kripalu in Massachusetts in August. And those are all listed under events on the ellengraceobrian.com website.
Thank you. Thanks for mentioning those.
So before we dive into our dialogue about imagining enlightenment, let's take a moment to dive within and practicing what we are about to discuss, a yoga moment. So let's begin right where we are, just becoming aware of the bodies in space, whether you're walking, standing, sitting, just being aware of where the floor or the chair supports your body, and then bringing your attention to your breath, our friend, our ever-present tool that helps us to bring our attention into the moment. So just notice as we take a fully conscious breath as we inhale and exhale. Feeling the cool air entering the nostrils on the inhale and feeling the warm air flowing out. And now using our breath to imagine, with the in-breath we can dive within, and with the out-breath we can relax. And as we dive within, resting in the conscious awareness at the center of our being, resting in this witness consciousness, this expansive sense of peace, and knowing that that same essence is present as you, as me, as everyone and everything. It's within us, between us, and all around us. And just by noticing, bringing our attention within, we can rest in this essence of our being. And as we rest there, we may notice thoughts or feelings as they arise. Realize we can watch them. Watch them as they arise, and watch them as they pass away. Resting in this essence of our being. Feeling the peace that emanates from this essence of our being. And as we draw this yoga moment to a close, realizing that, as Yogananda described it, it's a portable peace. We can take it with us into our day and share it with all we meet. Once again, Umaji, I'm so delighted to join you today here on the Yoga Hour and to discuss your new book, The Jewel of Abundance, Finding Prosperity Through the Ancient Wisdom of Yoga. I know you have written several books before, including an award-winning book of poetry last year called The Moon Reminded Me. But this book, having just launched, has anything surprised you about the process of getting this book published and out into the world?
Yes, there have been many surprises about it, and that's been really the delightful part of writing a book. You know, this book is about prosperity from the perspective of how to cooperate with the infinite. You know, coming to rest upon the inner life, you know, the expansiveness of the inner life, and draw upon spiritual resources. And when we do that, there's always surprises that come from divine grace, you know, ways in which doors open, ways in which new insights come, new inspiration. And so, of course, it's ideal that writing the book about that, I would actually experience it. So
Yes.
that, you know, I really have seen that. And the interesting thing about cooperating with the infinite and opening to divine grace is that even though you know it's there, you can never actually anticipate how it's going to come and how you will experience it. And so I would say perhaps the most surprising thing for me was, you know, I had written a year-long course about prosperity and spiritually conscious living, about the Purushartha, the Vedic goal of abundance, wealth, and prosperity. And that course has 52 lessons in it, and I thought, well, I'll just compile those into a book. And so I thought, oh, that'll be easy. But then, you know, I realized that there's a big difference between a web course, which has its own methodology, you know, and a book, you know. So, of course, no one really wants a book that it'll take a year to read, at least not many people. So,
Right.
you know, so then it was like, well, what to do? You know, how I have a contract now, and where's this book going to come from if it's not going to come from the files of what I thought I already had? So of course, it came from spirit. You know, it came from the inspiration that flowed. And so, you know, my experience was that there's a spirit in this book. I like to think of it as Shakti, the energy of the Divine Mother. You know, Saraswati is known as the goddess of wisdom, of the arts, you know, of writing and music. And so I had many prayers to Saraswati as I was writing, and there was a flow that came, And so the biggest surprise is the book is very different than how I thought it would be in the beginning. And really, that's the best thing about it. So I think, as we look at that as a lesson for our lives, we can say, it's not going to be what you think. Which is really the best thing. There's an aliveness, there's a spirit, there's a power, there's a presence, there's a possibility that is so much greater than what we're conceptualizing. So we start there, and that's not a bad thing, because starting there allowed me to take the first steps. But I took the first steps, and then it was like the whole like in a cartoon, the trap door opened and I fell through.
That's a great image. So there's a lovely poem included in your new book on page 189, and I thought that might be a nice way to begin our conversation. So would you read that for us?
Sure. And this poem in the book really is a kind of a compilation, if you will, of the teachings that are in the book. So this is sort of a summary poem that just kind of gives us, all the steps that we need to prosper. So you can think of it that way as you hear it. To succeed, optimize your life. Sanctify your days. Make a sanctuary for the soul. Build it with love. Light it with peace. And invite everyone in. Make a sanctuary for the soul. Build it with love. Light it with peace. Invite everyone in. Center yourself in yourself. Nourish your body. Open your mind. Honor your soul. Center yourself in yourself. Nourish your body. Open your mind. Honor your soul. Change your thoughts. Soar beyond them.
Beautiful.
And that's the summary of the book, really.
So our topic today is Imagine Enlightenment. So let's start our discussion with defining what we mean by that term. So what is enlightenment from the view of yoga, as defined in the yoga tradition?
I will offer definition, and this topic is so important that I even put the English word enlightenment in the glossary of the book. And so it's important to think about it. I mean, it is the goal of life, right? To wake up, to become that which we are in potential, which is spiritually enlightened. But it's also kind of a taboo topic because, well, one, you can't really talk about it because it's beyond conceptualization. So that's one reason why people don't talk about it. But in my tradition of Kriya Yoga, the masters have always talked about it, and they have always encouraged devotees to think about what it means to be spiritually enlightened, and specifically to be spiritually enlightened in this lifetime, and to not just think that this is an unattainable goal and that it is only for a few special people. So in the glossary of my book, enlightenment is defined as having true knowledge of higher realities, and liberation of consciousness from the errors of perception that cause identification with the false self. So having true knowledge of higher realities, and along with that, of course, liberation of consciousness from the errors of perception that cause identification with the false self. So this is really moksha. This is the fourth of the purusharthas, the fourth goal, liberation of consciousness. So, and that is being free of avidya, or that primary error of ignorance that is error of perception, wrong identification, identifying oneself as the body and mind, thinking, that we are this body mind that has a soul, rather than understanding that we are that soul, we are that essence, operating through this temporary vehicle that is the body and the mind.
So you've described this realization, this liberation of consciousness, this realization of the underlying, oneness of all that is, as our greatest prosperity. So how is this our greatest prosperity?
Well, this enlightenment, or the first stage, we'd say is, self-realization, capital S. And I want to say that, really just a little bit of practice initially on the yoga path, we can wake up to the truth of what we are. Now, that does not mean that we experience at that juncture, full enlightenment, but we can know the truth of who we are. And at that juncture, we know the truth, but because of not being fully illumined, not having the mind fully clarified, or having had the grace-filled experience of nirvikalpa samadhi, the highest samadhi, we still fall into forgetfulness. And, so we re-identify with conditions, with the mind, with our thoughts. But it is not, it doesn't take long to realize the truth of our being as spiritual beings operating through the mind and body, and that this self that we realize is the self of all. And that self, called the Atman, is identical with Brahman, the ultimate reality. And so the reason this is our greatest prosperity is that we get out of being stuck in that identification with ego, with mind and body, which is by its very definition limited. And when we are coming from that perspective, and ego is really just a construct of the mind, when we come from that perspective, we're always coming from the perspective of limitation. There is no way around being identified with the ego and knowing our fullness. So that needs to be surrendered in order to, in a sense, fully prosper.
So I know one of the things that I've heard you say many times, and you say in the book, is that there's a natural yearning within each one of us to realize this truth of our being. So where does this impulse come from?
It's innate, because it's the truth of our being, that which we are, the divine self. It's always there, and in a sense that the impulses of divine grace are always rising within us, to experience directly the truth of our being. It's like like wandering, through the world. The sages have said it's like a state of, sleepwalking, but, at the core of our being, we're already awake. And so we have a soul memory, a soul knowledge of being awake. We have knowledge of the reality of our being, of our infinite divine potential. And so, sleepwalking through the world, we naturally feel sorrow of that sense of limitation, because we know already at the core of our being our innate wholeness. So we yearn for it.
Mm-hmm. Because that's the reality. That's the truth.
Because we already know it. And I think of the saying of Jesus that's so beautiful with regard to enlightenment, with regard to spiritual awakening. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And it's you will know it, and it's knowing it that sets you free. It's not knowing about it, but actually realizing it, waking up to it.
You include a quote from your teacher, Roy Eugene Davis, on page 32, and I'll read that. So, imagine being spiritually enlightened. Don't allow yourself to be confined by mundane circumstances, subjective mental and emotional conditions, or mental processes. Imagine that you are always established in conscious awareness of your pure essence, which is a unit of the pure essence of ultimate reality. So that gets us to the topic of today, imagining enlightenment. And so why is it important? Why is it so important for us to imagine enlightenment?
So first, I should clarify, and I do say in the book, and of course my teacher says that as well, that imagining being enlightened is not likely to make us enlightened, fully awake. And of course, there are some people who imagine that they are, and they're not. So it's not about that. When we study yoga, we discover a fundamental teaching that our attention and our awareness basically flows in two primary directions. One, our attention and awareness can flow to our essence of being, to that unit of the pure essence of ultimate reality, which we are. So we can become aware of that which we are. When that's the basic skill of meditation, when the mind becomes quiet and our attention and awareness consciously rests in that pure, still, unbounded essence, then we are aware of that. We're aware of that which we are. We're aware of being aware. And so that's one direction. Then the other direction is for attention and awareness to flow into thoughts and emotions and circumstances, and not just be aware of it, but then actually become identified with that, to think, I am, angry, I am happy, I am lost, whatever the I am is attached to, with regard to our attention and awareness flowing in that direction. So imagining enlightenment, in a sense, is training the mind to have our attention and awareness flow into a more expansive state of being. So it helps us become aware that we don't have to be identified with limiting thoughts, emotions, or conditions. So it's an experience, an exercise to train our ability to turn our attention at will.
That's a great description. It seems to me that it's a way of remembering. Beginning to remember, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of the same thing as remembering.
So in the book you state, the most formidable obstacle we face on the path of enlightenment is the belief that it's not possible for us. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So how does that obstacle arise? And actually, I should mention, we only got about 2 minutes before the break. So.
Thank you. Well, that obstacle is identified in yoga as the primary obstacle that I mentioned a little bit earlier, which is avidya. It is ignorance of the true self and becoming identified with the mind and the body. So it is about becoming so involved, with the world, with the mental and physical layers of being, that we are forgetful of our essential self. And given that, then we feel that that's what we are. And so enlightenment becomes, some kind of distant goal, because you actually cannot get there. We say you cannot get there from here. It's a change in consciousness. It's a shift in our awareness of what we are.
Mm-hmm. There's also this sense that I've heard expressed where people will say, oh, well, that's only for saints. That's only for, people who aren't me, basically.
Yeah, Paramahansa Yogananda, reminded devotees that he is a great soul. He was an enlightened being, and yet he reminded his students, devotees, that the same self was in them as in him, but the difference being that he made the effort necessary. It takes discipline to train the mind. It takes discipline, to live a life that's focused on enlightenment, that's focused on being awake. It takes discipline.
Mm-hmm. And with that, we've come to the break. You're listening to the Yoga Hour with host and founder of the show, Yogacharya O'Brian. And today we're discussing the teachings in her new book, The Jewel of Abundance, Finding Prosperity Through the Ancient Wisdom of Yoga, which is available on Amazon.com or from her author website, ellengraceo'brien.com. We welcome your comments and questions. You can contact us at yogahour@unity.fm. I'm Dr. Laurel Trujillo, co-host of the show. When we come back from the break, we'll explore more about imagining enlightenment. We'll be right back.
Greetings, friends. I'm Jim Blake, CEO of Unity World Headquarters. From all of us at Unity Village, we wish you a joyous and blessed holiday season. May this time of year for you be filled with magic, miracles, and unending peace. Namaste.
Unity Online Radio is bringing the message of unity to thousands of spiritual seekers around the world. If you enjoy our programming, we invite you to support it by visiting unityonlineradio.org and clicking on Donate Now. Help us continue to provide inspiring content to everyone. Thank you for your support.
Here's a Unity teachable moment with Reverend Ogun Holder speaking at Unity on the River in Amesbury, Massachusetts on living an abundant life.
Examine your life. Whatever you may think is missing or lacking or you wish you had, realize that you are bearing false witness against your true self, and speak words of abundance to it. Speak words of truth to it and to yourself, and repeat them over and over again until you have brainwashed yourself into believing that you are divine. The moment you begin to think and speak as if truly you are the embodiment of all that is. This is the only thing we got to get in through our thick skulls. Living the abundant life is not about what we have. Living the abundant life is realizing that we have it all.
To find a Unity church near you, visit unity.org.
If you're looking to deepen your spiritual journey, Unity Magazine is your go-to source for information and inspiration. It's been beautifully redesigned and packed with interesting articles and compelling interviews from today's spiritual thought leaders. You'll find science, spirituality, and healing with a look at Eastern philosophies, meditation, as well as completely new ways to interpret the Bible. Plus, reviews on the latest spiritual books and music. Get a free trial issue at unitymagazine.org.
Would you like to show your support for Unity Online Radio? You can donate easily on your phone by texting the word VOICE to 50555 and donate $10 to support Unity Online Radio. It's easy to do, and your offering will help us keep inspirational and positive programming on the air. Remember, just text the word VOICE to 50555 and support your favorite shows on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Expand your mind and open yourself up to new ideas with Janet Connor and the Soul-Directed Life, every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central here on unityonlineradio.org. Janet talks with some of the leading voices in the world of mind, body, and spirit. Each week, you'll hear fascinating stories, practical information, and ideas to inspire you to follow your soul's calling. Janet is right there with you on the journey. Listen live or on demand here on unityonlineradio.org.
Call now with your question or comment. 816-251-3555. That's 816-251-3555.
You're listening to the Yoga Hour, Living the Eternal Way with your host Yogacharya, Ellen Grace O'Brian.
Welcome back to the Yoga Hour. I'm Dr. Laurel Trujillo, co-host of the show, and I'm here today with Yoga Hour founder and director Yogacharya Ellen Grace O'Brian, discussing her new book, The Jewel of Abundance. So, Umaji, there's a lovely quote in your book about imagining enlightenment, and I thought I would read. So here it is. Beyond contemplating and imagining, allow the felt sense of enlightened living to emerge from within you. Feel it in your body. Remember that as an individualized expression of spirit, you are already enlightened at the core of your being. Quote, becoming enlightened, unquote, is a matter of removing obstacles to the full expression of your true self and allowing your innate radiance to emerge. Let the feeling of being enlightened remain in your heart and in the background of your awareness. Let it be a reference point for conscious living. So one of the things I loved about this quote is the reminder that we are already enlightened at the core of our being. So could you say more about that, our enlightenment at the core of our being, which is already present, and about our innate radiance?
Well, that innate radiance is the radiance of the divine, Brahman, the absolute reality that is the life of our life. It's the breath of our breath. It's the life of everything. So, in the Vedic teachings, there is an explanation that there is one absolute reality, and this reality is both transcendental, beyond the material world, and it is also has an expressive aspect that moves into creation and is the life of everything. So this innate radiance is simply that, with a capital T, that, which we are, that which everything is, life, as it has been said, is a play of consciousness. Things continually move and change on the screen of time and space, but what makes that show available to us is the light that's shining on the screen, the light of a supreme consciousness, and that is what we are. So becoming aware of that helps us move through life, more gracefully, because sometimes, life feels pretty tumultuous. There's, changes can be difficult, they can be painful, they can be scary. But they're more difficult, they're more painful, they're more scary if we identify with them. But if we have the skill of remaining anchored in our essence of being, then we still keep our heart open, we still feel, but we are saved from being identified with those changing conditions.
Mm-hmm. Which brings to my mind the quote, I think it's from the Bhagavad Gita, which is even a little bit of this practice removes great fear.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and that great fear, the greatest fear, is death, of course, which comes from identifying with the mind and the body. But that is, of course, instinctual, and in a sense, we need that. It's a self-protective mechanism. But spiritually, we can also begin to see through even that, and then ultimately release it. This is the whole purpose of what on the yoga path is called sadhana, which defined as spiritual practice. But I love that literally it means to go straight to the goal. So sadhana is about living from that truth of our being, arranging conditions so that our life, what we do, what we think, what we say, is consistent with the truth of our being. So sometimes people think of, spiritual practice as, a way to get to the goal, but we really can. When we think of going straight to the goal, it really means living in accordance with the truth of your being. So we don't meditate to become enlightened. We meditate because that's what enlightened people do.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's great. So one of the many things I love about your book is you have so many practical suggestions, for people in every chapter. So in addition to using the tools of contemplation and imagination in this chapter on imagining enlightenment, you also encourage us to consciously occupy our subtle body. So what is the subtle body, and how does it differ from the physical body?
Well, the subtle body is like the blueprint, for the physical body. It's called the astral body. It's an energetic body. If we think about everything in nature, everything in the manifest world, has a blueprint. You don't have a house without a plan for it, without it existing in the more subtle arena, first of imagination and thought, and then it's a drawing on a paper, and then it's a house. And so even with the physical body, it arises out of the subtle cosmic idea that it is. So the astral body, the energetic body, and that's where people are familiar with the chakras, the centers of vital energy. They're in the astral body, which mirrors the physical body, but it is subtle instead of material.
And interpenetrates the physical body. Right?
Absolutely, yes. It's not separate from the physical body. It's simply its more subtle counterpart. You can one way to think about the astral body is that you are in the astral body when you dream. Dreams are associated with the astral body and that state of consciousness. So, I was thinking last night I had a dream, and I was in a house with a spiritual teacher, a yogi, a sage, having a conversation with him, and it was a beautiful dream. But I wasn't there, of course, in my physical body. But this morning I remembered the dream quite clearly, and the teacher was embodied. I was embodied, but what was that body? Is a sense of what the astral body is like.
So one of the things that you advise is to lift our awareness to the higher chakras. So what are the higher chakras, and why is it important to lift our awareness to them?
Well, the higher chakras are associated with higher states of consciousness. So they're not better than the lower chakras. All the chakras have a function. So we can think of the base chakra having to do with, stability in the world and security, which is necessary that we have that. The higher centers, the heart, in particular the heart and the throat, the third eye and the crown, are all associated with higher states of consciousness. So It's simply a practice for moving attention and awareness into those higher states of awareness.
Mm-hmm. So how do we do that? How do we consciously occupy these higher chakras, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown?
Well, meditation practice is a good beginning, and when we meditate, we can consciously move our attention, from the base to the second chakra, to the third, to the fourth, and so on, and if you're new to that, there's a diagram in the book for the correlation with the physical body, kind of where to look. But the main thing is to feel. And so after meditation is a good time for that exercise, or even as a prelude to meditation, just depending on what works for you. But, starting with the base and, feeling energy there. And just intend, you work with the mind through intention. So you bring your attention to the base chakra, you imagine or feel energy there. And then you move up a few inches to the second chakra, you imagine or feel energy there, and so on to the third and the fourth. So you become familiar with this correlations of energy centers in the subtle body that correlate with locations in the physical body. But the main thing is that it's prana, it's life force, shakti, or energy that moves through these channels. So you can become tuned into prana or energy. And the path of Kriya Yoga, of course, is very helpful in that regard, because there's a very dynamic form of pranayam that is taught, that we learn how to move energy through the Sushumna, the central channel of the astral body vehicle. And we become familiar, with the chakra centers and the felt sense of prana. But even without that, of course, you can become aware as you sensitize yourself to tune into prana. And it's a great way really to enliven your meditation, just noticing, because what will happen is that energy will move by itself, through the activity of divine grace, and you'll feel these centers open. So it might be the heart center, could be the throat, could be the third eye, or even sometimes the crown. So people feel, maybe they feel a little pressure there, like an awareness. It's an awareness of that center, or it feels tingling, or just like it's open, your awareness is there, and your awareness keeps expanding as you focus on that point. So we do that during meditation, and then you can make the intention at the end of meditation to simply allow your awareness to move to that center during your day, eyes open, doing what you're doing. So, even as you're listening to my voice now, you can become aware of your energy, your life force at the third eye or the crown chakra, and just feel it there or imagine it there. And it helps to expand awareness beyond becoming constrained into that body-mind consciousness.
That's really a lovely way to, as you said, expand our awareness and begin to feel those little sensations that, if you're not noticing them, they can pass by very quickly. But just being aware of, like, as you said, a tingling, or a little bit of a rustle in your awareness, feeling the energy flows.
And sometimes people don't have any feeling, but there is a shift in consciousness that occurs when you intentionally direct your attention to one of the higher centers. So, as I mentioned, as you're listening to me, if you're not driving a car or operating heavy machinery, then, just bringing your attention to the third eye or the crown, you'll notice as you anchor your attention there that you simply you begin to feel more expansive. It's unavoidable. So it's a wonderful exercise. So you might not have a physical feeling that accompanies it, but you're shifting your consciousness by bringing your attention to those energy centers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So up until now, we've really been focusing on imagining enlightenment for ourselves. And in addition to this, you really go into the book about encouraging us to imagine enlightenment for all and for our awakening world. Mm. So why is it important to extend our positive creative imagination to include everyone and the world?
Well, again, it's really an exercise in getting out of being stuck in the ego self. So, when we really want to be on a prosperity path, our path needs to be an expansive path that, we're signing up to be instruments to benefit the well-being of all to the best of our ability. So I talk about prosperity being a path of transformation, a spiritual path of transformation, because it's about becoming instruments of the divine self, expanding beyond the narrow constraints of, what I want, what will improve my life. So we give that up in a sense as a focus. We go with what has heart and meaning for us, what brings joy to the soul, and is dedicated to the well-being of all. And then, we find that, just as I mentioned in the beginning of the program, that, what life always has more to offer us than anything we could have imagined in our small way, for our little ego-based self.
Mm-hmm. So you write in the book, and I'm going to just read a little quote here. We live in an awakening world, in a time of individual and global awakening to the great truth that life is one, and that one life is God. As life is God in expression, it is whole, complete, abundant, and lacks nothing. Awakening to this wholeness brings the experience of radical prosperity or sufficiency, and with it a new way of living. There is enough for all in God's economy. It is time for us to shed the idea that one person's good is another's loss, and to rise to the truth that all can and must prosper. It's time to free ourselves and our world, our children and grandchildren, from the specter of scarcity. So that idea of scarcity, obviously, can really take hold of us. So if there is no lack in God, why do we see it in the world?
Well, scarcity, 101 is the operating system that we have in our world right now, which is an unawakened consciousness, which is an ego-based system that, pits one country against another, one person against another, this idea that there's not enough to go around. And that's simply not the truth. We know it's not the truth. Scientifically, it's not the truth morally or spiritually, but it is the current operating system, and we can see that. And so that's really my higher purpose for this book. And of course, it is the higher purpose of the teaching, to get out of that old operating system and begin to make a difference. So I'd like to continue on with that section you were reading from. Many times students have asked me, if there's no lack in God, why do we see it in our world? We see it because we have collectively believed in it. We have structured our lives and our world by that belief. The lack that we perceive in our world is not a problem with the source. It's a spiritual development problem. Humanity is right now like a toddler with a power tool or a computer. The power is there, the potential is there, but we don't yet fully understand it and know how to put it to good use. We are right now awakening to our potential to create a prospering world that works for everyone, evolving from an egocentric model of life to a spiritually based one. As long as we remain in the egocentric system, that operating system I was referring to, and are unaware of wholeness, there will be lack, fear, and scarcity arising from the collective consciousness. That unawakened consciousness cannot see that we are connected to one another, to the earth and nature, and to God. Humanity has lived for centuries with the consciousness of scarcity, the limited thinking that has fomented fear, greed, sexism, racism, xenophobia, militarism, war, and injustice of every kind. It's time for this to change, and we are ready. There's no turning back the tide of spiritual evolution. To cooperate with this transformation, this evolutionary jump for humanity, we must not allow ourselves to get sidetracked, fooled, set up, or put down by fear-based messages, no matter where they come from. The worst ones are those in our own minds, and those we can readily change.
Absolutely. So in the last couple of minutes, one of the things that you encourage us to do when we do get caught in this, or, begin to get caught in this idea or scarcity, or when there's fear, you encourage us to go to the mountaintop. I love that image of going to the mountaintop. So how is it that we go to the mountaintop?
Well, we all have different ways, I think, of going to the mountaintop, but it's really a metaphor for prayer, for actively intending to shift our consciousness. And so for some, they may go to the mountaintop by taking a walk, but not just a physical walk, a walk where we intend to shift our attention and awareness out of being problem-centered, to being open to awareness of that divine reality that surrounds us and indwells us, Others may listen to music, others may meditate, but the key is a prayerful intention to shift our consciousness. And, with regard to prayer, the important thing is to, what the preachers would say, pray all the way through. In other words, don't stop short of the miracle, or don't stop short of the mountaintop. In other words, sit or walk or sing or dance until your consciousness has shifted, from lack to abundance. And so for me, that's the experience of going to the mountaintop, is doing whatever works, for you to shift your consciousness.
And of course, there's all kinds of tools and meditation, many, many different ways to get to that mountaintop. So with that, we've pretty much come to the end of our time together. It always goes so quickly, and it's been a delight to talk with you about just the richness that's in your new book. You've been listening to the Yoga Hour. It's been my pleasure to share this time with you. I'm Dr. Laurel Trujillo, co-host of the show, and we've been discussing Imagine Enlightenment with the Yoga Hour's founder and host, Yogacharya Ellen Grace O'Brian. She's an internationally acclaimed spiritual teacher, author, poet, and the founder and spiritual director of the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment. Yogacharya's new book, The Jewel of Abundance, Finding Prosperity Through the Ancient Wisdom of Yoga, was just released and is available on Amazon.com and from her author website, ellengraceobrian.com. You can find out more about her writings on that ellengraceobrian.com site and about her teaching schedule at the CSE website. And let me just take another minute and go over these upcoming retreats with you, Yogacharya. I know there's going to be a New Year's retreat in January at the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment in San Jose. There will be a retreat in April in Scotts Valley, California at the 1440. And in May, Yogacharya will be at the Omega Institute. I believe that's in New York. And then Kripalu, which is in Western Massachusetts, there will be a retreat in August. And all those are listed under events on the ellengraceobrian.com website.
And thank you so much for mentioning those, because a retreat is really an opportunity to have, an immersive experience. And so it's incredibly valuable. I think we should all give ourselves that at least once a year.
That's right. So I look forward to continue our conversations about prosperity in the new year with our next one coming up in January. For our listeners, join me next week for Yoga and Transformation, when my guest will be Anastasia Shevchenko, yoga teacher and organizer of the upcoming Berlin Yoga Conference in Germany, which is scheduled for May of 2019. The Yoga Hour is a service project of the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment Meditation Center in the Kriya Yoga tradition that welcomes people from all backgrounds who are seeking self and God realization, a path to spiritually conscious, fulfilled living in today's world. Remember to subscribe to the Yoga Hour podcast at iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you to the Yoga Hour team, regular host, founder, director, and our who we've been talking to today, Yogacharya O'Brian, assistant producers Ann Hayes and Sean Smith, CSE's Global Media Outreach Manager Holly Gray, and Jeff Comfort and Louis Pagan in the sound booth at unity.fm. I look forward to being with you again. Until then, remember, you carry your own healing and wholeness within you. Share your peace and joy with all you meet. Bye now.
Thank you for listening. This is Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.